All right, so before I take a couple of questions, or as many questions as you have, frankly, I just want to acknowledge a lot of the work that was done in this litigation. I want to start, on the state side with the state agencies that did a tremendous amount of work in gathering records so that we could prove the damages to the state of Rhode Island. So Secretary Jones and all the people who work with you and state agencies across the state, that was a tremendous amount of work that no one will probably ever see. But I can tell you countless of hours and millions of pages of records were necessary for us to build the kind of case that brought these defendants ultimately to the table, and will continue to inform our work as we proceed against the two defendants that remain outstanding. I also want to recognize the work here of the team in the office. There was a really strong team, beginning with Neil Kelly, who's since retired, but really got us off to a great start here. Neil is just a terrific public servant, and I hope he's listening somewhere. And Neil, thank you. Miriam Weisenbaum, the chief of our civil division, which is where this case in the office lived. I mean, many times our criminal side gets a lot of attention, but our civil division is incredibly strong, stronger than ever. And this case is another example of that. Dan Sutton and Kate Sabatini that work with me and our policy team, two outstanding lawyers, did great work here. And then the Deputy Attorney General, Adee Goldstein. She is a force. For those of you who have dealt with Adee Goldstein, you know what a powerful voice she is for Rhode Islanders. And we would not be here today without her great work. And so I'll leave it there, and I will take questions.
Attorney General Neronha, maybe a question for Tony as well. It's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that the enabling legislation for harm reduction centers specifically prohibited city and state funding as well as federal funding, whereas grant money from this settlement may in fact be applied to that. Any idea of the percentage of this funding that would go to harm reduction centers?
Yeah, Pat, I think that's definitely part of the conversation. There's been no predetermined plan for where this money is going to go. This will be a plan or a set of plans that are informed by voices from all over the state. And that's why it was really important to me, frankly, to have Andy here. You can look at people up here and think this is a state, big city thing. It's not. This is a settlement that is going to benefit every Rhode Islander, whether you live in Barville or Bristol, Westerly and Woonsocket, Jamestown or Johnston. It's going to affect everybody in a positive way. Other questions? Advisory committee, Steve? Yeah, look, we hope to have the money in. Yeah, well, we don't want it to be bogged down. And the good news is there's been a lot of good thinking in this space already. The Governor Raimondo, now Governor McKee's Opioid Prevention Task Force, the Department of Health, community partners. I see some of them out here have been working on this for a very long time. It's not going to be difficult, for example, to pick Senator Tassoni's brain and get some great ideas from him as well, and people like him. So my goal, and I think all of our goal, is to figure out where the money should go to have the most impact, get it to the General Assembly so they can appropriate it, and move it out the door quickly. That's the plan. Yes? Hi, Mary. Yeah, so the bottom line is, all of these companies basically prioritize profits over safety. And Johnson & Johnson as a manufacturer should have done a better job of understanding the impact of these opioids on the people who are using them. We found the same thing, frankly, with Google a decade ago. Google cared more about making money off its AdWords program than what it meant for people going online and buying opioids without a prescription. It was about money. It was about money then. It's been about money here. That's always what it's about. They knew the risks and they didn't tell anybody. You can make all the money you want as long as you do it the right way. But when you endanger lives and you know you're endangering them and you do nothing to stop it, well, that's not good corporate behavior. That's bad corporate behavior, and that's what's been addressed here. Other questions? Hey, Brian. No, I have not been in contact with them. You'd have to ask them, Brian. I mean, look, I go back in this space a long time. When we were talking about medical marijuana a decade ago when I was U.S. Attorney, federal government had a lot to say, and ultimately didn't take action. So really, the ball is in their court to address that issue. We'll just see where it goes.
How much of the money also is going to go to legal fees that are outside or inside the office? Is that a separate pot of money?
Look, that's a good question, and it's an important one. We all wanted to make sure that when we were negotiating these settlements, and it was one of those points of real contention between me and other states, which have the ability to do all of this litigation in-house. We don't have that ability here. We had to get outside counsel. So it was really important. Take California, for example. California had no interest in setting aside a separate pot of money to pay legal fees because they were able to do that in-house with the 600 lawyers they have. I have 30 lawyers in the civil division. And so the money that's going to be paid to fees does not come out of this $114 million. And that was a strong point of contention for us. That money is, the distributors are paying that money. That's coming out of a separate pot of money that was negotiated separately to pay these fees. Other questions? Sure, Steve. Yep. It's combined, Steve. It's frankly it made the negotiations frankly complex. As he even knows, you've got a state lawsuit here, and you've got a federal lawsuit combined with other federal lawsuits from around the country out in Ohio. And so when the AGs from around the country, representatives of counties and cities and from around the country are trying to resolve the matter, how you do that is complicated. And the global settlement, I think, called for a split, I think, of 70 to the state, 15 to the AG, 15 to the cities and towns. That was sort of the starting point in the global. Each city or town and every state could negotiate differently. Ours shook out differently. So I wasn't interested in keeping money in the AG's office. By law, I'm not interested in doing that. So that's why our breakdown is 80-20. But that was a very complicated set of negotiations. At the end of the day, all Rhode Islanders win. But making that work in the context of that complication was difficult. And it'll be signed off here in state, too, because we have to settle our case here in the state of Rhode Island. And our case remains. So our case, on hold with respect to the Sacklers and Purdue because of the bankruptcy proceedings in New York, still on track for TEVA. That case will go forward here in Rhode Island in March. We're just not prepared to settle with them at this time. I'm only going to settle a case, Brian, where we have a trial date if I believe it's in the best interests of the people of the state of Rhode Island. It's why we didn't agree to the bankruptcy settlement in Purdue and with the Sacklers. It's why we haven't agreed with TEVA. This settlement, in my view, made sense for the people of the state. It'll get some money here quickly that can do, hopefully, some real good. Yes, Katie? For us? Yeah, so it was a... Was it mediated? No, it was negotiated. I mean, frankly, our team here in the office did the bulk of the negotiations. D. Goldstein really led those on our behalf. Motley Rice was a firm retained to provide outside counsel. Under Rhode Island law, you can retain outside counsel, but this office must lead the litigation. That goes back to the lead paint case from a number of years ago. So we were the leaders in this, assisted by outside counsel. Look, if the General Assembly wants to give me another 100 lawyers to do all these cases on my own, I'd happily take them. I think we can recruit and retain great talent. But I also understand that we live in the real world, and this was a good way to do this case. And again, those fees are being paid for outside the settlement. It's really important to me. It wasn't as important to California. It was very important to me and some of my smaller state colleagues. Other questions? All right, with that, thank you very much for coming. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks.